I'm looking at you. You're talking to me.
No, look at them. I want you to look at them if you can, if you have the courage to look them in the eye, Mr. Patel, and tell them you're proud of what you did. Tell them you're proud that you raised money off of people that assaulted their colleagues, that pepper sprayed them, that beat them with poles. Tell them you're proud of what you did, Mr. Patel. They're right there. They're guarding you today. Tell them how proud you are.
That's an abject lie, and you know it. I've never, ever accepted violence against law enforcement. I've worked with these men and women, as you know,
you glorified it in song,
and I did not make a single dime out of it.
In song. Well, let me.
How about you ask them if I have their backs, and let's see about that answer.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Patel. Let me ask you this.
Stu Peters, does that name ring a bell?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you familiar with Mr. Stu Peters?
Not off the top of my head.
He made 8 separate appearances on his podcast.
It is difficult to say which one of Donald Trump's terrifying cabinet nominees is the least qualified, the most concerning, or the most dangerous. But Kash Patel is certainly near the top of that list, if not at the top of that list. And that is exactly the arguments that Democrats were making today against Kash Patel being confirmed as the director of the FBI. And it's really astounding that he has even gotten this far in the process, that he hasn't had to drop out like Matt Gaetz, considering the man published a list of enemies that he intends on going after. It is absolutely terrifying. And when he was pressed on his previous statements about his enemies, he quickly crumbled, and we are going to get into all of that. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really means the world to me. Now let's get into Senator Dick Durbin confronting Kash Patel on all these crazy statements he's made in Kash Patel crumpling.
Who worked with him during the Trump's first administration. Attorney General Bill Barr, and I quote, "I categorically oppose making Patel deputy FBI director. I said it would happen over my dead body. Patel had virtually no experience that would qualify him to serve at the highest level of the world's preeminent law enforcement agency." National Security Advisor John Bolton. "I didn't think he was qualified. He demonstrated no policy aptitude at all. I was forced to hire him." President Trump's Deputy National Security Advisor, Charles Kupperman. "The idea that Kash Patel is going to be the FBI director is appalling. His legal career is modest at best. His ideas are ludicrous." CI Director Gina Haspel threatened to resign after President Trump proposed making Mr. Patel CIA Deputy Director. Defense Secretary Mark Esper said Mr. Patel lied about whether Nigeria had approved a hostage rescue operation, putting American lives at risk. But Mr. Patel would have us believe that all of these public servants, all Republicans, all from the first Trump administration, and apparently anyone else who's critical of him, are nothing but government gangsters and deep state members. Many of them have made his list of enemies. Just this week, CNN reported that during the Trump administration, CIA officials referred Mr. Patel to the Justice Department for criminal investigation for sharing classified information without authorization. Last week, I asked the Justice Department and intelligence community for information on any criminal referrals relating to misconduct by Mr. Patel. I have yet to receive a response. Mr. Patel's record is clear. He traffics in debunked conspiracy theories that serve or benefit his political beliefs. Let's start with January 6th, and he dedicates a whole chapter in this book on January 6th. That's something that each and every one of us, as witnesses to January 6th, have our own view of. I'll be grateful always to the Capitol Hill police officers who risked their lives defending me, members of Congress, and visitors to the United States Capitol on that day. Mr. Patel posted on social media, quote, "January 6th, never an insurrection. Cowards in uniform exposed." End of quote. Let me repeat that. Cowards in uniform exposed. Who was in the Capitol building on January 6th in a uniform? The Capitol Police were. Do you think they were cowards? Many of them risked their lives and some gave their lives in defense of this building. How about the DC police who were here as well? They were in uniform. Cowards risking their lives as well. Some of them being battered and beaten by these mobsters that came into the Capitol. And Mr. Patel claims that the FBI agency aspires to lead. Get this now. Was planning January 6th for a year. He says the FBI was planning January 6th for a year. That's a quote. Mr. Patel has gone so far as to co-produce and sell musical recordings of a song performed by January 6 rioters in jail. Rioters who violently assaulted police officers. He has described this January 6 choir as, quote, political prisoners. Political prisoners. But at least 6 members pleaded guilty to assaulting law enforcement officers on January 6. All 6 have now been pardoned by President Trump. Here are some of those people who received blanket clemency by President Trump on his first day in office in the second term. Julian Cater assaulted Capitol police officers with pepper spray, incapacitating 3 officers. Ryan Nichols sprayed pepper spray on multiple police officers. After the attack, Nichols posted on Facebook, and I quote, "So yes, I'm calling for violence and I will be violent." Jordan Mink struck officers, quote, aggressively with a long pole. He spat at officers and threw large items at them. Armed with a knife, Ronald Sandlin shouted at officers, quote, "You're going to die, get out of the way." Sandlin shoved officers when they tried to lock the doors to the Senate gallery. After breaching the Capitol, James McGrew struck an officer and lunged for his baton. McGrew also threw a wooden handrail with metal brackets at officers. I want to read a sentence from this book on the January 6th experience, just to give you an idea of Mr. Patel's take on what he calls a haphazard riot. By everything we could see, the crowd at the Capitol was unarmed or armed only with non-lethal objects like bottles, flagpoles, or bike racks. Mr. Patel has also peddled conspiracy theories for his own financial benefit, promoting a line of dietary supplements that claim to help people detox from COVID-19 vaccines. During my time on this committee, I was fortunate to get to know and work with former FBI Director Bob Mueller. I met him a few days after 9/11. That's when he took over the FBI. I trusted him, I worked with him, I did everything I could to help him, because I believed that the FBI was the critical central agency in restoring America's confidence that we were safe. Bob Mueller was an extraordinary man. Oh, he was a Republican, make no bones about it. He said it and admitted it, and I knew it. He comes from the San Francisco area, and when he was in college and graduated, a friend of his a year ahead of him had enlisted in the Marine Corps and was killed in Vietnam. Bob was inspired to do the same thing, join up in the Marine Corps, and he did. And he was a first lieutenant in Vietnam. He received a Bronze Star with a Valor Pin, and he also received a Purple Heart. He was injured in battle. I read about his experience because after he was healed from that wound to his leg, he returned to combat. He was just that kind of fella. Regardless of party, he was a real American. He was a longtime federal prosecutor, a U.S. attorney, the head of the DOJ's criminal division, and acting deputy attorney general before he became head of the FBI. After 9/11, I worked with him, and we had a good relationship, a professional relationship. We didn't always see eye to eye, but I respected him so much for what he had given to this country. In this book, Mr. Patel calls Director Bob Mueller, quote, a swamp creature. With all due respect, Mr. Patel, I've not worn the uniform of this country, and neither have you. To think that you would denigrate Bob Mueller's service to our country and call him a swamp creature is an indication of the depths your political views take you. The FBI plays a critical role in keeping America safe from terrorism, violent crime, and other threats. Our nation needs an FBI director who understands the gravity of this mission and is ready on day one, not someone who is consumed by his own personal political grievances. The American people deserve an FBI director focused on keeping our families safe from terrorism, drug trafficking, and violent crime, not this checklist of grievances we find in this book. Mr. Patel, your record makes it clear you're not that person.
It is absurd to me that these senators who were there on January 6th can be unfaced by a man who brought together a chorus of their would-be assaults. People who violently attack police officers in the building that they are holding that hearing. And just be able to be okay with it, or be so scared of Donald Trump, be so spineless. People who should be leaders, what they've been elected to do. Technically, they certainly tone and that they could just be on with that. One of the scariest aspects of Kash Patel is that we know that MAGA is always trying to appease Donald Trump. What scares me so much about Kash Patel is in the first role that he had in Donald Trump's administration, he would actively find ways to come up with ideas, things that Trump hadn't previously stated he wanted done, and do them in an effort to gain favorability with Donald Trump. And that is what is so worrying about Kash Patel as the FBI director, because Trump can say, I haven't instructed him to do anything. It's the same with Pam Bondi. Donald Trump doesn't have to tell them what to do, but when you're publishing an enemies list and then Donald Trump nominates you for this position, it's pretty clear what he wants you to be doing to act on that enemies list. It's terrifying. And that is why this opening statement from Dick Durbin, before he even got into the questioning, was so impactful.
Tell me about your J6 choir. What is that?
Well, it's not my choir. It's simply a recording that was utilized to raise funds for families in need of nonviolent offenders.
Who sings on this recording?
I don't know, Senator.
What did you have to do with it?
Simply to raise funds to assist families of nonviolent offenders whose kids needed college education payments and whose rent needed being paid.
My understanding is that the performers on this J6 choir were the rioters who are in prison.
I'm not aware of that, sir. I didn't have anything to do with the recording.
You weren't aware of who made the recording?
No, Senator.
This is a truly deranged individual. This is someone who should have us all incredibly scared. This is someone who will use any lever of power that he can for not just the Donald Trump administration, but for potentially the next 10 years to prosecute anyone who he sees as a political opponent, to investigate anyone he sees as a political opponent. It is frightening. And I don't think it's getting the coverage it deserves, but we need to be talking about it, and we are going to on the show every single day. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, you can leave a like on this video, and if you're stuck around at the end, you drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.